Hello and welcome to the Congo Hour. My name is Trippy. I'm joined this evening with my co-host Wayna Dobson Jacobs. And we just want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we hope that we have that we entertain you and that we inform you and that we just get you interested in the city of Wilmington and our guests and our show. And how are you, Wayna?
I'm wonderful, Trippy. Thank you for asking.
Who do we have coming on this evening?
Well, I'm not. She's gonna introduce herself.
Oh,
We're not gonna have that.
she just came in the door making all these demands about say her name right.
Right.
But
So she can.
it's Khadijah. I forgot
Yeah,
that
you
fast. I
forgot
forgot
that
that fast. Khadijah. Right?
Shah.
Khadijah.
Khadijah.
Khadijah. She's come on to talk about an event that she has coming up where she talks about finances and what else?
Money.
That's all? No, it's not. It's something else too.
Oh, she'll tell you.
Okay, all right. Then we have Attorney General Matt Dent. He's coming on.
Yes.
He's going to be a part of Sammy's Corner. Did he say why he wants to come on?
I invited him.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I reached out to him when he won, and after he hit the ground running with doing things. So,
Okay.
I wanted to have him come on the show and talk about those things that he wants to do.
Okay.
And we also have some of our Facebook friends that sent some questions in for us to ask him.
Okay. All right. I'm sure he'll probably want to talk about the grant that he helped to secure
Right.
for the city of Wilmington.
We want to talk about the violence.
All right. To talk about trying to get some additional foot patrol officers in the city.
Trippy, on that note, I
Yes.
do want to bring this up, and our condolences go out to all of the people who have been killed through
And
gun violence.
And family members who have been shot also. Not
Yeah.
everyone was killed, but it's just been a
Right.
terrible weekend and last few weeks.
Yeah, so just this weekend only 6 people were shot on Broome Street, and I believe 2 of those 6 died.
Yeah, between Broome and Washington, and it's been sad. It's been very frustrating, very sad, upsetting, just to see, what the families go through firsthand. You know what gets me so upset, Wayna, when
What?
people come up to me and they say, they just make a joke about like us being busy around like surrounding the
I've
like
heard
the
that
homicide.
before,
Just
yeah.
like that's so.
And unsensitive.
Yes, it is. It's like how could you even joke about that? You know what I mean? I think that's something that we look forward to.
Right, I agree with
That's
you.
just so. Please stop doing that. If you see, I'm sure I'm speaking for other funeral homes also.
Right.
No one looks forward to burying a young person who was murdered.
Right.
So please stop doing that. I know
That's a
hopefully
good point.
they don't really mean any harm, but it's just very insensitive. I think
Right.
that was the perfect word.
True.
But you said you want to talk about that and what else? I mean, you want to go talk about that some more, or?
No, we can talk about it when he comes, but
Okay.
one of the things that I guess really bothered me, and I know we say that police are not the be-all, end-all, but for the shootings to take place like over and over and over again in the same vicinity, like
Right.
to me, like where were the police officers? Like why wouldn't, I just feel like more police officers should have been in that vicinity. Not that it mattered because they were shooting while they were there,
Right.
but I just think that if maybe they had been a little bit more visible.
Yeah, I think that's part of the solution. Like you said, it's definitely not the answer. The police can't stop. If someone really wants to hurt somebody,
They're
they're
gonna do it.
going to try their
Right.
best to do it. But I just think that it will give a better feeling to the communities and the neighbors. It's just seeing more patrol officers, especially officers on foot, not just kind of riding by all the time, but more walking officers.
Right.
I think it'll give it'll show the community that that we're at least trying to do something.
So, and I just like people, I don't know if they really understand, like it affects, like one of the young men who we have his body, Devin Lindsay, like I know his, Devon, I know his mother and his father,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it affects a whole community of people, it
Yeah,
doesn't
it
just
does.
affect just one person.
And it's so sad because I was talking to someone and they said their think it was like their little sister or somebody in their family had to go to 3 funerals of their friends within the next week. It's like I can't imagine being that young and having to, witness or just experience 3 of my friends being killed. So that's just so much that they have to deal with at such a young age.
Yeah. So one of the things that I definitely want to ask the Attorney General is like those the grant monies that's coming, like education and public safety should be key. So we'll find out about that. And I'm glad your dad is going to be here because he really has a lot of wisdom and knowledge and understanding.
Yeah, he does.
So
I don't want to take up too much time away from our first guest, Khadisha. Khadisha, right? Khadisha. So.
Welcome to the show. I know how you feel because at work I can say Wayna and they'll say, hi, Lena, or Wanya, or it's like, no, Wayna. Right. So pronounce it one more time.
Khadisha.
Right, okay. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This isn't your first time here?
No.
Okay, all right.
And I was just enjoying you guys and listening to your conversation, and it is sad because I think, and one of the things that I have a burden for, my main thing is purpose.
Right.
And so I just really feel like these young men don't know who they are. If they knew that they were a king and that they were shooting a king and that they're married to or, girlfriends with a queen, you know what I mean? They wouldn't be doing these types of things. And so I just hope that whenever there's a death, I mean, it's sad. And my condolences absolutely go to the family. I just wish that something good can still come out of that. So
it can.
Yeah.
It will.
I believe so.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But I love what you said about you focus on purpose. And like you said, if they knew their purpose, then Mr. Congo talks and teaches this to us. He talks about it all the time, talking about value.
Yeah.
Like we have to get back into the value system of valuing ourselves, which is going to allow us to value other people. So, but let's talk about your event that you have coming up.
Okay, so I do have an event coming up on Saturday, February 7th.
Okay.
It's called Turn Your Courage into Currency. And so you guys had mentioned finances. I guess some people do think I'm a financial advisor, but that's not what it is. My background is actually in business and marketing. So what I want to do through this workshop is really empower aspiring entrepreneurs or those who may have been in business for 0 to 5 years and really encourage them to step out and go to the next level in their business. So if you know you need to do a book, a ministry, a business, but you don't have the business acumen, come on out to this workshop because we'll be talking about faith and business principles together. So that's what's going to happen on February 7th.
And where is your workshop?
Oh, this is at the Doubletree.
Okay.
On Concord Pike, the one right adjacent to the mall.
Okay.
So everyone should know where the mall is.
Yes.
And does Avin have Khadisha's
No, because you know what? I forgot that we can even.
I'm sorry, Khadisha.
What
I should have
happened?
taken things into my own hands. Can you give us your number so that Avin in the control room can put it across the screen, or give us your contact information, please?
Sure. My contact information is 1-844-438-3248. And they can always go to my website, KhadishaCarroll.com. Sure, 1-844-438-3248. I hope that's the right number. And my website is Khadisha Carroll, Kadesha, and Carroll is CA, 2 R's, 2 L's. And so actually I wanted to give a few tickets away, if that's okay.
Sure,
for the workshop, because I don't want finances to be a hindrance. There is a ticket, a fee, an investment attached to it,
There we go.
which is $67, and that includes breakfast, a workbook, and 3 hours of the workshop.
Okay.
But I do want to give a few tickets away for those who may be in the beginning of business and may not be able to afford it. So they can call that number, leave a message, and maybe like the first 3 or something, I'll give them a ticket.
Okay.
And give us, did Avin get that number, Keisha? He got it? Okay, so we're going to put that on the screen. The first 3 callers will each win 1 ticket?
Yes.
Okay.
One ticket is all I can afford.
We appreciate it. Yep. So you said it's going to be February 7th. What time does it start?
February 7th, doors open at 8:15. It'll
Okay.
start at 9 o'clock. Please be on time. You know, we have a struggle with time management, but it's a lot of information that I need to cover in 3 hours. And so if
Okay.
you can be there for the whole 3 hours, you will definitely benefit and be blessed, I promise.
That includes breakfast. You said, and a work.
A little continental breakfast,
Okay.
a workbook so they can follow along, and then all the information and knowledge that I'll be giving them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of your background.
So my background is I had a wedding and event planning business.
Okay.
I did that for about 4 years.
Are you still interested in doing that at all? I mean, could you?
Are you getting married?
No.
Or remarried?
But some. Oh no.
Are you going to redo your vows again?
But somebody
Over and over
to my
again.
right is getting married this year.
Oh,
Yeah, so
congratulations!
I'm gonna have so many different wedding. I'm gonna have you play a small part. So I want at least like 4 or 5 wedding planners.
Oh my
You
goodness.
won.
Yes. Yeah, I'm doing this for you. Okay.
Okay,
This is
wait.
gonna be the event.
You
of
got them on
Remington.
tape.
That's right. So I want you to be one of the wedding planners. okay? You can do that.
Congratulations! I didn't know. You're welcome.
Not too many people did, but now they do. Yep.
Look away. But no, yeah, we could talk offline
Okay.
about
All
that.
right. Thank you.
And I have a master's in business.
Okay.
And so I worked at Sony Electronics for a few years as well. And then recently I've really just moved into the ministry realm. So what I'm doing now with Live on Purpose is the name of my organization. It allows me to combine faith and business, which is the things that I love the most.
I love it.
Yeah.
And some people, I think, forget that you can't get away with the biblical principles
Right.
when it comes to business.
Right.
So,
And it should be a part of your everyday walk.
Right.
So that's what I try to empower and inspire people to do through their business endeavors.
All right. Just want to make sure that we have the right number on the screen.
Sure.
844-438-3248.
3248, yes.
3248. Okay. So
Yes.
hopefully you already have some phone calls. If not, the first 3 callers will each win 1 ticket
One ticket.
to the event on February the 7th at the
Absolutely.
Doubletree.
Yep.
Starting
Oh,
at
and some
8:15.
exhibitors. If there's anyone
Okay.
that want to exhibit their business or product or service, I'm looking for a few more exhibitors as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much are you charging for the space?
The exhibitor space is 87.
Okay.
And the ticket, like I said, is 67. It just went up. So, but I do have a few people who are generous enough to do some sponsors. So again, I don't want finances to be a hindrance. If you're interested, give us a call and maybe we can find a sponsor for them.
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. So I'm sure we'll see you again.
Hopefully.
We will. Wish you the best.
Thank you. When's your wedding?
We're going to take
listen,
a quick break and we'll
That's
be
July,
right
August,
back.
with the date of the wedding. We'll be right back with the date and a lot more details, right? Okay. Wait.
The love that is shown.
Sunday, starting at the beginning of March, and that'll be a significant increase, and they'll be on foot in the high crime areas. But that was not something that I could do myself. We needed to work with the city, and we needed to apply for the money. Similarly, we just put out a proposal to spend about $36 million that the state's gotten in settlement funds from some banks that were doing some things that they shouldn't have been doing, and trying to invest in dealing with some of the underlying causes of the crime. I think you also mentioned at the beginning of the show, the police is necessary, but it's not enough. There are other things that you have to deal with. So we want to spend some money on our high poverty elementary schools to get more people in those schools working with those kids, after school programs for the teenagers, and summer programs, reentry programs for some of the folks who are being released out of our correctional institutions back into the community. Right now, 2/3 of them are ending up back in jail within 3 years. And similar types of programs, substance abuse treatment. A lot of the activity that we're seeing in the city, we believe, is related to drugs. And you want to deal with the enforcement side, but as long as people are trying to buy heroin, then there's going to be people trying to sell it. So, but again, that's something that we need to work with the legislature on. And in fact, I encourage your viewers who have the telephone number of their state legislator to call them and ask them to support this proposal that we've made to spend that $36 million, because that's not a sure thing either. So there are some things that we can do as an Attorney General's office in terms of trying to be very focused on certain types of crimes, making sure that people don't get released before trial if they're dangerous and cycled back out onto the street. But a lot of what we're trying to do requires collaboration.
Okay. Do you have a contact number that we can put on the screen during the interview?
Yeah, 577-2500 is the number for the Attorney General's office. And people can contact me or anybody else in the office through
Can you say that number one more time, please?
Sure, 577-2500.
Okay. All right, thank you.
2,500.
Right.
You mentioned, you talked about education. Do you believe that the majority of the money should be geared towards education and crime? I know you mentioned those other things, but education is, I believe, one of the top priorities that our community needs.
I think $36 million is a lot of money. I think there's actually the opportunity to do both. We're talking about taking almost $5 million of that money and investing it in additional staff people for our 16 highest poverty elementary schools in the state, half of which are in the city of Wilmington. And that's going to let them hire teachers and paraprofessionals to work with those kids, many of whom are coming to school with just a lot of problems that kids who are lucky to come from more affluent backgrounds don't have. And if you get to those kids early, that deals with problems down the road. Some of that money we think should go into additional enforcement. The 6 new patrol officers, this grant would only pay for that through the end of the summer. And if we want to keep that going, it's going to require additional investment. I think that we have a lot of work to do with our cameras around the city. We have a lot of locations that don't have them. We have some up that aren't functioning.
And they know that they're not functioning.
Absolutely.
The criminals know that they're not functioning.
And that's something we can fix, but that also requires investment. So there's a lot of areas that require it, and I don't know that one takes precedence over the other. But again, this is a rare opportunity that we have to actually deal with this in a comprehensive way. But it won't happen if people don't pick up the phone and let their legislators know that it needs to happen. And all those things, I mean, those foot patrol officers, 5 or 6 weeks, we hope to have them out there, and that's a pretty aggressive schedule. Some of this money we hope to have out there in a couple of months, but we also have a short-term problem, and we've had 7 people shot in the city just this weekend, and that is not acceptable. And I think that we also need to start talking about some things that we might need to do in even the shorter term before we get to March, because I am not satisfied letting the situation as it stands continue for another 5 or 6 weeks.
Mr. C, you want to?
Oh, I think it's fascinating to have him on our show. Although I don't agree, I believe that all this is not as important as housing. I think that if you had a 1, 2, 3, what causes the crime, what does not cause the crime, and you say, I want to put the money in policemen, I want to put money in schools, I want to put money in agencies or put money in housing. I think that great housing creates a different environment within people.
And I omitted that from the list, but that's included in our proposal. About 16 million of the 36 million under our proposal would be invested in affordable housing. And a lot of that would be invested in a competitive grant fund that we have right now where anybody can come in as long as they're proposing to do it in one of the identified low-income areas and put in proposals for taking down vacant properties, putting up new properties that are designated as affordable housing. So I agree with you. You know, what's different about housing is that takes years to see the results of that, just by nature of you have to build it. I think some of these things, if we do them, we could see the results in weeks or even months.
Mm-hmm. I think that you can't take one house in bad and put it in between two bad houses. I think you gotta invest in overpaying for some of those houses that are in the way that would prevent you from having a great block of great housing where it becomes a great community. And you set up a system that makes it community. You know, just having housing isn't enough. You got to have community. And I think as you begin to, there's something else that's important too, if I can just stop here. I think that Delaware has to take on and find out, you know, whether the Tom Gordon, I'm sure you've heard of Tom Gordon's project at the port, that if it's true that it can bring in 16,000 jobs, that's more than General Motors, that's more than Avon, that's more than Chrysler, that's more than 5 companies that have left can produce. And so when you begin to bring in housing and employment at that level, because they begin to pay more money, which gives people better feelings about themselves and their ability to provide, I think that is for Wilmington, that's a crime preventive kind of experience that you get as a result of that. So I think that in our budget, what we want to do in the budget is begin to find out how to reduce the prison budget and balance that with housing and whatever, and begin to get it back to where it really makes sense. Instead of, I think the prison is our largest money that's in the budget. Is that?
It's up. It's not the largest, but it's one of the larger ones.
One of the larger ones. And for things so crazy as, in my mind, crazy as having a guy that's 1 year behind in his, there's no jobs for certain kinds of people in Wilmington. There just aren't. And so this guy's uneducated, has a record, can't get a job, and we put him in the prison because he didn't have child support. He didn't pay child support. Now we're beginning to give $35,000 out of our budget. I don't think that has been figured out. What do you think about that?
Well, we're going to have, I think that we have some room we have to go on one side of that and some on the other, and I'll tell you what I mean. We're going to be proposing out of our office, and I don't think any attorney general that I can remember has done this. We're going to be we are going to be proposing reducing some of the minimum mandatory sentences that exist right now for some crimes where we just don't think that they really match up in terms of what they are now. So in that respect, you know, we would be reducing prison costs. On the other hand, there are some crimes out there now where people aren't doing time where I think they need to. And I'll give you one very specific example. Most of what's going on in the city now in terms of gun violence is being done by very young people, either juveniles or people under the age of 25. And we have some loopholes in our minimum mandatory law for people who are prohibited from having firearms. They had to get the gun someplace, you know, illegally. They couldn't buy it at a gun shop because of a violent crime and even a gun crime they committed when they were 16 or 17. So they're a person prohibited because they were violent when they were 17. they turn 19 or 20, they get picked up with a gun, and in most cases they get probation. And to me, that's not right. We need people to know that if they're prohibited from having a firearm, then there's going to be a real consequence for that, and probation.
How does that happen? I don't mean to cut you off, but how does that happen? I hear that a lot from officers, that they keep having to lock up the same dangerous criminals over and over. Like, you know, people who they have arrested for gun crimes.
Well, I think it happens in two ways. One is pretrial, and I mentioned that a little earlier as an area where we're going to be looking to try to see why that's happening, because you're right, I hear that constantly from law enforcement. I hear it particularly with respect to juveniles, that they pick them up, that they're relatively serious crimes, and then they're driving around again 2 nights later and they see them right where they were before. So we need to deal with the pretrial part of it. Dangerous people should not be on the street. But then on the other side of it, someone who has committed violence when they're 17, now they're 20, they know they're not supposed to have a gun, and they're walking around the street with a gun, that to me is not an acceptable situation. And right now there's no minimum time for that either. And as I said, the majority of those folks get probation right now. So I think that there are some folks who are getting longer sentences than makes sense, but I also think that we have this, this category of folks who are most of the ones doing the shootings right now, who believe that there's not a consequence to walking around with a gun when they're prohibited, and I think we need to change that.
Wow, so what happened to that, I think it was the Fed Up program, where someone automatically got 5 years for carrying a gun? That no longer exists? Or?
You get 5 years if you committed the offense that stops you from having the gun when you were an adult. But if you committed it when you were 17, then it goes from 5 years to basically probation. And what we're saying is, the difference between 17 and 18 is not that big of a difference. Right. And we have a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds walking around, unfortunately, with firearms. And I don't know if that's a new phenomenon or if it's just something that's evolved, but we need to adjust to that.
I guess I'm not so. I think that kind of person, the firearm guys, are a small percentage of who's in jail. But how do we best use the state's budget money to bring positive factors to our community? How do we do that? Maybe you can't, the guy does not have a job, but maybe he can be exposed to doing, what do you call that when you're doing community work or something like that? Service. And he may meet somebody that could change his whole life in a very positive climate. So how do we get those guys to do community work and maybe adjust his or her responsibility to that home? Because many times the state has already paid for that child. And so, what we want to do is to get this guy to pay back the state some of that money that they have already invested in their children. But how do we make that a more positive for everybody?
You're talking about folks who are released from jail, or?
No. When the guy he goes to court and the judge says, I'm going to give you 2 years for lack of child support. So now we're going to take from the state money to support him in the prison. Why can't we, because he hasn't done a crime where he's a dangerous person, he just doesn't have a job with no money. How do we take that guy and put him doing community work instead of putting him in prison?
I can't give you an exact number. I think that there are very few people who are incarcerated for not paying child support. So I think that's not a really substantial part of our prison population. We do have a lot of people who are in prison for drug possession, and I think that's one of the areas that we're going to be looking at in terms of, there's some quantities of drugs where if you have them in your possession, you're obviously dealing drugs. Right. And that's something where I think it's appropriate for people to do time. But we also have some categories of drug possession where it's not so clear. And we have people who are doing time for much lower quantities of drugs than would necessarily make them a drug dealer. So that's one of the areas that we're going to be looking at. I think there's a lot more people who meet that description than there are folks who are in for child support. But the bottom line is that there's, like I said, there's problems on both ends. We have some folks who maybe shouldn't be in, but we've got some folks who should be, who aren't, and we need to get them off the street.
Okay. All
Mr. C, this is your corner, and I really don't want to take over. So
I'm glad you do, and I'm glad you did. I just think that we are excited about having you, a person like you and you, both of you, uh, uh, to fill a very valuable position in our state that has the kind of, I call it long range seeing things. And when I worked for the YMCA, we used to call it a long neck Yumka bird, where Yumka was the YMCA bird. And he was the guy who kind of put his head out of the nest and could see things around him. And I guess I'm excited that I've, just knowing you over the time that I have, and I've always put you in that box since Reverend Moyer set me down, and Reverend Herring, which was a great friend of mine, and all the men that you have mentioned have been great people that have been a part of my life and have helped me along the way. So I'm excited to have you, as the person that has so much to do with everything that goes on in the law enforcement kind of position. So I'm excited, and if there's anything that I can do, I would hope that you would just ask, just call me up and say, Sammy, I need your help.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure that you've got things all together, and so I just welcome you aboard and congratulations, and I'm just excited that Wayne asked you to come on tonight.
I'm happy to come on anytime.
okay, thanks. We'll definitely reach out and have you come back on after those monies have been voted on and agreed upon to use. Okay.
Right? And just your viewers should remember to call.
Yes. And
Well, I think, Wayne, it's important that, and I know we're running a little late here, that we have men like Attorney General Dent to give us an update on a regular basis. Would ask him to commit himself to maybe every 3 months come in and say, here's where we are, here's what's happening. And and that's where I think LAPA has a very,
advantage.
not advantage so much as a need in our community to have information that's solid. A lot of times we get information that's not really it's pretty one-sided sometimes. So having people like Attorney General Dent in to say, look, here's the facts. Then, like, I didn't know that 7 people been shot this weekend. But, sometimes we won't get that out of the paper.
Right.
And so it's important to have him to come in. So try to.
I'll make it happen.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, my pleasure. All right, we're going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back with Trippy with our funeral announcements.
All right, welcome back. At this time, we're going to have our funeral announcements. First, we have Miss Frida Merchant, age 87, who departed this life January the 10th. Her services were on Friday at the Saints Andrew and Matthew Episcopal Church, and her burial took place in the Grace Lawn Memorial Park. Mr. Robert Bailey, age 24, departed this life on January the 14th. His funeral services were on Friday at the Congo Funeral Home on 2nd and Gray Avenue, and his burial was private. Mr. Isaiah Copeland Sr., age 91, departed this life January the 18th. His funeral services took place on Friday at the Coleman Memorial United Methodist Church, and his burial will be private. Miss Delana Russell, age 45. She departed this life on January the 11th. Her funeral services were held yesterday at the Congo Funeral Home on 24th and Market Streets, and her burial will be private. Miss Evelyn Perkins, affectionately known as Ebby, age 66, departed this life January the 17th. Her funeral services were yesterday at the Trinity AME Church in Middletown, and her burial took place in the Pine Tree Cemetery. Mrs. Tammy Willis, age 53, departed this life January the 15th. Her funeral services were yesterday at the Pilgrim Baptist Church, and her burial was in the Grace Lawn Memorial Park. Miss Doris Knotts, age 75. Her memorial services were yesterday at the Simpson United Methodist Church. Mother Maggie Pugh, age 77, departed this life January the 16th. Her funeral services were yesterday at the Rehoboth Temple Church of God in Christ in Philadelphia, and her burial took place in the Valley Forge Cemetery in King of Prussia. Mr. Pearlie Hubbard, his burial will take place tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the Delaware Veterans Cemetery. Miss Barbara Henry, age 73, departed this life January the 17th. Her funeral services will be on Tuesday, January the 27th at 11 a.m. at the St. Paul UAME Church, 3114 North Market Street. The viewing will be from 9 to 11, and her burial will be in the Grace Lawn Memorial Park. Miss Rachel D. Harley, age 100, departed this life January the 20th. Her viewing will be on Tuesday, January the 27th, from 11 to 1. Her services will be private, and her viewing will take place at 466 Bethune Drive in Newcastle. And her burial will take place in the Grace Lawn Memorial Park, but her services will be private. Mr. Stephen Peabody, age 69, departed this life January the 12th. His funeral services will be on Wednesday, January the 28th at 11 a.m. at the Congo Funeral Home on 2nd and Gray Avenue. Viewing will be from 9 to 10:45 only, and his burial will take place in the Union Hill Cemetery in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. Miss Adele Stubbs Christmas, age 90, departed this life January the 17th. There will be a viewing at the Congo Funeral Home on 2nd and Gray Avenue from 10 to 11 a.m. And that her services, her graveside services will be at the Lower Brandywine Presbyterian Cemetery at 11:30 a.m. That's 101 Old Kennett Road in Wilmington. Mr. Davon E. Lindsay, affectionately known as Boo Boo and Beans, age 20, departed this life January the 18th. His funeral services will take place on Saturday, January the 31st at 10 a.m. at the Ezon Fair Baptist Church, 1400 B Street. Viewing will be from 8 to 9:45 only, and his burial will take place in the Grace Lawn Memorial Park. Miss Esther Church, age 97, departed this life January the 23rd. Her funeral services will be on Saturday, January the 31st at the Congo Funeral Home on 2nd and Gray Avenue at 10 a.m. Viewing will be from 9 to 10 a.m., and her burial will take place in the Rolling Green Memorial Park. Services will be announced for Mr. Alvin Saunders, age 58, who departed this life on January the 17th, will be on Friday, January the 30th at 11 a.m. at the Congo Funeral Home on 2nd and Gray Avenue. Viewing will be from 9 to 10:45 only, and his burial will be in the Delaware Veterans Cemetery. Services for Mr. James Lindsay, age 71, who departed this life January the 16th, took place on Friday, January the 23rd in the Grace Lawn Memorial Park. And services will be announced for Mr. Raymond Maldonado, age 54, who departed this life on Friday. And services will also be announced for Mr. Donald Perkins, age 49, who departed this life yesterday. And that does conclude all of our funeral announcements. If you have any questions, please call us at the funeral home at 652-8887. Once again, our number is 652-8887. You can always go to our website at www.congofuneralhome.com. And we do have a couple of community news announcements that Wayna wants to make. Yeah, first we want to say happy birthday to one of our team members at the funeral home, Dave Young. He is celebrating his birthday on January the 30th. So, of course, that's coming from all of us, from your team at the funeral home, Dave, and from all of your Ezon Fair family, and from your family. So happy birthday on January the 30th. And I also want to say congratulations to my little cousin, Shannon Young. She graduated from, I think, Wilmington College.
Wilmington.
Wilmington University, I'm sorry, Wilmington University. She has a degree in criminology, and I just want to congratulate her and her parents and her whole family. Congratulations,
And Aunt
Shannon.
Judy. Aunt
Oh,
Judy
yeah,
was
definitely.
at her
Oh,
celebration.
yeah, definitely. Congratulations to Aunt Judy also.
Yes. All right. The Tava Disability Advocacy Network is having a free workshop. It's Mindful for Health and Wellness. It will be held at the Wilmington Library on Saturday, January 31st at 1:00 p.m. And this is sponsored by Dr. Nina Anderson, and I'm going to add Cephas to it. This is Julius's wife. So it's free and open to the public. Once again, and it's to talk about managing stress, managing pain, storing health and well-being. For more information, you can call 762-0200. Once again, the number is 762-0200. And Minister Leonard Potts is having a conference, Family is Important. It's going to be held at St. Paul's Church, 3114 Market Street, on Saturday, February the 21st, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. He's going to have some guest speakers and dancers. For more information, you can give him a call at 290-7321. That's 290-7321. And that does conclude our community news.
All right, we want to thank you for watching it. And again, if you ever want to be a part of the Congo Hour, just call or text Wayna at 521-7325. Thank you, and God willing, we'll see you next Sunday.